Inside Rikers Island, the real story of New York's most notorious jail complex. Before we dive into this darkness, hit subscribe because once you enter Rikers Island with me, you won't look at crime the same way again. Like the video, drop a comment, and let's step inside the place where danger never sleeps. The night the body was found, the air around Rikers Island felt heavier than usual, thick with the kind of tension that comes before a storm. At 2:17 a.m., a correction officer radioed for backup from the George Mochen Detention Center. His voice was tight, controlled, but beneath it was something else, something closer to fear. An inmate had been discovered collapsed in a hallway between two housing units, a place no inmate should have been at that hour. His name was Darren Cole, a 28-year-old awaiting trial for armed robbery. When officers reached him, he was still alive, but barely. No blood. No visible wounds. Just panic in his eyes, as if he'd seen something or someone he wished he hadn't. Inside Rikers, unexplained injuries weren't new. But what made Darren's case different was what they found clutched in his hand. A small, torn piece of paper with 4 words scribbled in shaky handwriting. "They're watching. Don't talk." The incident triggered an immediate internal investigation. Captain Elena Morales, a sharp, unshakable officer with a reputation for exposing corruption, was assigned the case. She'd seen the worst of Rikers, but something about this felt calculated. Not random. Not inmate versus inmate. This felt like a message. Morales began digging into Darren's background and quickly found something that made her stop cold. Darren wasn't just any inmate. 3 days earlier, he had requested protective custody, claiming he'd overheard a conversation involving a correction officer and 2 inmates, a conversation about a smuggling network operating inside the jail. The officer he named was someone Morales knew. Sergeant Lucas Rowe. A man with nearly 2 decades in the system and a spotless official record, but a reputation among inmates that was far from clean. As Morales reviewed the security footage from the night of the incident, the situation grew stranger. The camera facing the hallway where Darren was found had gone dark exactly 14 minutes before the discovery, not due to a malfunction, but a manual shutdown. Someone with access had turned it off. But why? And then came the first real break, something Morales didn't expect at all. The digital access logs showed that the last person who entered that camera's control panel wasn't a correction officer. It was another inmate. A name Morales recognized immediately. Trey Sullivan, a man serving time for racketeering, known for his connections far beyond Rikers' walls. He wasn't supposed to be anywhere near a restricted system. Yet the logs didn't lie. If Trey had access to the cameras, he could see everything, every officer, every movement, every blind spot. And if Darren had overheard more than he should have, he wasn't attacked. He was silenced. Morales felt the ground shift beneath her. A corrupt officer was one thing, but an inmate with access to the jail's surveillance system? That was something else entirely. And then came the moment that changed the direction of the case. As Morales prepared to interview Trey, she received a call from the medical ward. Darren Cole had regained consciousness, and he was asking to talk. But when Morales arrived at his bedside and pulled back the curtain, the bed was empty. Darren was gone. And in his place was another note. One that froze her where she stood. "You're next." The moment Captain Elena Morales saw the empty hospital bed, she felt the unmistakable pulse of danger rise up her spine. In Rikers, inmates didn't just disappear. Every movement was logged. Every door required authorization. Someone powerful enough to move Darren Cole without alerting security had just sent her a message, and it wasn't subtle. She held the new note between her gloves. "You're next." Written in the same shaky handwriting, but this time, the ink was smudged as if someone had scribbled the warning while being rushed or forced. Morales ordered an emergency lockdown of the medical wing. Officers swept every hallway, every storage closet, every stairwell. But Darren was gone. No signs of struggle. No witnesses. Just a missing inmate who had been on the verge of exposing something huge. Back in her office, Morales dug deeper into the surveillance logs. She needed to understand how Trey Sullivan, a mid-level racketeer with a talent for manipulation, gained access to systems that even most officers never touched. The deeper she went, the the more the pattern emerged. Access codes changed without explanation. Camera blind spots appearing at the exact same times each night. Movement logs rewritten or wiped altogether. This wasn't sloppy corruption. This was a system, a network, operating inside Rikers under everyone's nose. Morales narrowed it to 3 possible insiders. But one name rose to the top: Sergeant Lucas Rowe. Rowe had been acting strange for weeks. He avoided Morales, cut corners, and signed off on log sheets with no verification. But what bothered her most was what she found next. Trey Sullivan and Rowe shared a pattern. Whenever Rowe worked, Trey had unusual freedom, unsupervised movement, extra time outside his cell, and a stunning number of accidental gate openings. Trey wasn't just connected. He was protected. Morales decided to confront Rowe directly. She found him in a storage corridor near the staff lockers, a place away from cameras, where conversations died before they reached the wrong ears. "Where's Darren Cole?" she asked. Rowe didn't flinch. "You're accusing me of something, Elena?" "I'm asking," she said carefully, "because someone bypassed 3 levels of security to remove him from the medical unit. Someone with access." Rowe stepped closer, his voice low. "You're digging into things you don't understand. Walk away. For your own good." Morales saw it then, a flicker of panic behind his tough facade. Rowe wasn't in control. He was trapped in something bigger, something he was terrified to name. But before she could push further, a correction officer burst into the corridor. "Captain, you need to see this. Now." Morales followed him to the central monitoring room. Officers crowded around a single screen, a live feed from Housing Unit C. The camera was shaking, as if someone was running with it. Then the image stabilized just long enough to reveal Darren Cole, battered, terrified, and looking directly into the lens. Before anyone could react, a hand reached into frame and yanked him out of sight. The feed cut to static. Silence filled the room, until a new message flashed across the screen, typed through the jail's internal system. "Stop looking for him." But what made the officers turn to Morales in shock wasn't the message. It was the signature beneath it. T. Sullivan. This was no longer a missing inmate case. It was a hostage situation. And someone inside Rikers was helping Trey hold all the cards. Every alarm inside Rikers Island erupted at once, a shrill, metallic chorus that echoed through concrete hallways like a warning no one could ignore. Trey Sullivan had crossed a line that even the most hardened inmates rarely approached. A hostage. A live feed. A direct threat. Captain Elena Morales moved fast. She knew Trey wasn't acting alone, he couldn't be. Not with the access he'd shown. Not with the precision of the lockdown glitches. Someone on the inside had opened doors for him, disabled cameras, and shielded him from detection. Someone who knew the system as well as she did. The command center lit up with red alerts. Officers scrambled, arguing over protocols. But Morales blocked out the noise. She studied the last frame before the feed cut, Darren's location. The cracked paint on the wall behind him. The thin stripe of yellow marking the floor. Housing Unit C had dozens of rooms, but only one matched that detail. The old laundry room. Unused. Forgotten. No working cameras. "Lock down the east corridor," Morales ordered. "No one gets in or out except my team." As officers moved, she grabbed her radio, then paused. This wasn't going to be solved by a swarm of uniforms. If Trey felt cornered, Darren would pay the price. She needed to approach quietly, carefully, and without tipping off the insider helping Trey. Morales took the back stairwell, the one maintenance used, and moved through the dim hallway toward the laundry room. Her heart pounded, but her mind stayed sharp. Every sound felt louder in the stillness. Halfway there, a shadow moved behind her. She spun. Sergeant Lucas Rowe. His hands were raised, palms out. "Elena, listen. You're helping him," she said quietly. "You let him take Darren." Rowe shook his head hard. "No. It's not what you think. Trey isn't the mastermind. He's working for someone else, someone outside. I've been trying to keep it from getting worse." Morales didn't have time for riddles. "Move aside. Elena, if you go in there alone, you won't come out." But she brushed past him, her voice firm. Then you better make sure I do. Ro hesitated, then followed. They reached the laundry room door. Morales pressed an ear to it. Voices inside. One calm. One terrified. Trey and Darren. She pushed the door open slowly. Trey stood in the center of the room, Darren tied to a chair but alive. Trey's eyes flicked to Morales, then to Ro, and a cold smirk spread across his face. Perfect timing, he said. I knew Ro would lead you here. He always follows orders. Morales froze. Orders? Ro stepped forward, guilt written across his face. Elena. I didn't want this. They threatened my family. Trey nodded. We all make choices. Morales raised her voice, steady. Let Darren go. This ends now. Trey chuckled. It ended the moment your investigation got too close. But you should know something before this is over. He reached into his pocket and tossed a phone at Morales' feet. Its screen lit up with messages, photos, logs, proof of the smuggling network, yes, but more than that. Proof that the operation wasn't just run inside Rikers. It was connected to people on the outside. People with money. People with influence. People willing to silence anyone who threatened their pipeline. You see, Trey said softly. Rikers is just the doorway. Someone else holds the keys. Ro looked away, ashamed, broken. But Morales saw her opening. While Trey watched Ro, she stepped forward and grabbed his arm, forcing him to the ground. Ro snapped into action, helping restrain him. Minutes later, officers flooded the room and took Trey into custody. Darren was freed and rushed to safety. It was over. Or so they thought. 2 weeks later, Morales submitted the evidence she'd found: the phone, the messages, the network map. But the district attorney's office returned a chilling reply. Insufficient evidence to pursue. Every name tied to the operation had been wiped from the files. Every lead evaporated. Every trace of the larger network erased. Someone far above Rikers had buried the truth. That night, as Morales drove home, her phone buzzed. A single text from an unknown number. You got Trey. But you didn't stop us. Then another. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for what comes next.